My beloved child, listen carefully, because this is not a random moment and this is not an ordinary message. Archangel Michael is stepping forward with urgency, and heaven itself is leaning toward you right now. Time is running out, not in fear, not in danger, but in divine alignment. A decision about your life is being made right now in heaven, and God is clearly saying, do not delay. Open immediately. If you found this message, it means your spirit was already marked to hear it. There are moments when heaven is silent, and there are moments when heaven moves swiftly. This is the second kind. Archangel Michael speaks with authority and clarity. The season you are standing in cannot be paused anymore. You have waited, you have prayed, you have questioned, and you have delayed, not because you were disobedient, but because you were unsure. Yet now, the delay itself has become the test. God is not angry with you. Heaven is not disappointed. But the window is narrowing, and alignment is required. Right now, in the unseen realm, discussions are taking place about your future path, not about your worth. That was settled long ago, but about your next assignment. Archangel Michael reveals that there are two timelines before you, and your obedience determines which one activates. One timeline is filled with acceleration, protection, and divine favor. The other is slower, heavier, and filled with unnecessary lessons that could have been avoided. Heaven is waiting on your response. You have felt this pressure in your spirit, that quiet restlessness when you try to ignore the nudge, that moment when something inside you whispers, now it's time. You may have tried to rationalize it away. You may have told yourself you'll act later, when things feel safer or clearer. But Archangel Michael says clarity follows obedience, not the other way around. God is saying, do not delay, because delay is no longer neutral. It is now a choice. Understand this deeply. God is not rushing you because he lacks patience. He is urging you because the door is already open. What you've been waiting for is no longer ahead of you. It's in front of you. The opportunity, the shift, the conversation, the step of faith you've been postponing, heaven already approved it. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian at this threshold, sword raised not in warning, but in protection, saying, step forward. I am assigned to cover you. There is something specific about your life that is being discussed in heaven right now. It could be a calling you've been avoiding, a decision you keep delaying, a truth you know but haven't acted on. God says, open immediately, because what you open will release what has been held back. The blessing has been ready, but blessings follow movement. Faith that does not move becomes fear in disguise. You are not behind. Hear that clearly. You are not late, but you are at a crossroads. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven has already recalculated your path to meet you where you are. Grace has compensated for lost time. Mercy has covered past hesitation. But from this moment forward, intentional action is required. The next step does not require perfection. It requires courage. There is also a warning wrapped in love. If you continue to delay, confusion will increase, not decrease. The enemy thrives in hesitation, but he cannot stop a moving believer. That is why this message carries urgency. Not panic, urgency. Heaven moves with precision, and right now, precision is being requested from you. Even a small step of obedience will shift everything. God sees the weight you've been carrying. He sees how deeply you care about making the right choice. But Archangel Michael says the right choice is no longer hidden. It had been revealed to you multiple times, in prayer, in patterns, in repeated signs. You already know what God is asking. This message is not bringing new information. It is confirming what your spirit had been hearing. Something powerful happens when you act while heaven is watching closely. Angels are reassigned. Resources are unlocked. Delays dissolve. This is why God says, open immediately. Because what's on the other side of your obedience is not just a blessing. It's protection, acceleration, and peace. The fear you feel is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're close. Archangel Michael's voice is firm but reassuring. You are not walking alone. I am dispatched to guard what you step into. Let that settle into your spirit. You are covered. You are supported. And you are capable of more than you think. Take a breath. Let the weight lift. This is not about pressure. It's about permission. Heaven is giving you permission to move forward without guilt, without overthinking, without waiting for every answer. God will meet you in motion. Now pause for a moment and reflect. What have you been delaying that keeps returning to your heart? That is where heaven is focused right now. And as this message continues, you are going to understand why the timing is so critical and what happens if you say yes now. Beloved soul, as this message deepens, Archangel Michael draws your attention to something crucial you may not have fully understood yet. The urgency you feel is not coming from pressure outside of you. It is rising from alignment within you. Heaven is not asking you to run blindly. God is asking you to move decisively. Right now, the atmosphere around your life is charged with divine instruction. This is why distractions feel louder, delays feel heavier, and silence feels uncomfortable. Your spirit knows a response is required. Archangel Michael reveals that when heaven announces, time is running out, it does not mean punishment is approaching. It means a cycle is closing. Certain doors will not stay open forever, not because God is unkind, but because seasons are precise. You are standing at the edge of a season that was designed to activate your growth, your authority, and your testimony. If you hesitate too long, you will still reach your destination, but through a longer, more exhausting route. God is offering you the shorter path right now. There is something specific God has already placed in your hands. It may look small to you. It may feel unfinished or uncertain. Yet Archangel Michael says heaven recognizes it as enough. God often begins his greatest movements with what looks incomplete, because obedience completes what doubt cannot. The instruction open immediately applies to what you already have access to. A conversation you need to initiate. A decision you must finalize. A step of faith that requires you to stop waiting for approval from people who were never assigned to your future. You may have been praying for a sign, but understand this clearly. This message is the sign. Archangel Michael does not come forward casually. When he speaks, it is because spiritual warfare around timing is taking place. The enemy cannot stop what God has planned, but he can attempt to slow you down through hesitation, overthinking, and fear disguised as wisdom. That is why God is speaking plainly now. No riddles, no confusion, just clarity. There is also reassurance here. Heaven sees your sincerity. God knows you are not delaying out of rebellion but out of responsibility. You care deeply about consequences. You do not want to disappoint God or yourself. Yet Archangel Michael reminds you that obedience is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. Courage is not loud. Sometimes courage is simply saying yes when your hands are still shaking. As you listen, allow this truth to settle. God is already ahead of you. Whatever you step into next, He has already gone before you to prepare protection, favor, and provision. This is why the instruction is urgent. Delay no longer protects you, obedience does. You have outgrown the place where waiting feels safe. Now, movement is your covering. Many who are hearing this have been sensing an inner countdown. You could not explain it, but you felt like something was about to happen. That feeling was accurate. Archangel Michael confirms that a decision about your life is actively being finalized in heaven. Not whether you are chosen. You are. But how quickly certain promises manifest depends on your response in this window. Heaven honors readiness. This is also a moment of responsibility. What God is releasing through your obedience will not only affect you. Others are connected to your yes. Your growth will unlock their breakthrough. Your courage will inspire their faith. That is why the enemy has fought this decision so intensely. He knows what your movement activates. Now, take a moment to engage with this message actively. If this word is resonating with you, let it be known. Like this video so the message can reach others who are standing in the same moment of decision. Share it with someone who had been hesitating, unsure of their next step. Leave a comment declaring that you are ready to move forward. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and become part of this growing community that listens for heaven's timing and responds with faith. Your engagement is not just support, it is participation in the mission. Archangel Michael also emphasizes the power of agreement. When you speak, when you engage, when you declare alignment, you shift the atmosphere around you. Silence keeps things internal. Declaration brings movement. This is why your voice matters right now. Heaven responds to agreement. Before this message continues, hold on. What is about to be revealed next will bring clarity to the consequences of action versus delay in a way you may have never considered before. Many overlook this truth, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. This is where understanding deepens and fear begins to lose its grip. Remember, God is not asking you to leap without guidance. He is asking you to walk forward with trust. Archangel Michael stands as a witness that heaven is ready. The only question left is whether you will respond while the door is still fully open. As this part comes to a close, let your heart remain open and attentive. The next revelation will help you recognize exactly what heaven is waiting on from you, and how quickly things can change once you act. Precious one, Archangel Michael now brings your attention to what is happening behind the veil, because understanding this will shift how you see your hesitation forever. When God says, a decision about your life is being made right now in heaven, it is not symbolic language. It is spiritual reality. Heaven operates with order, timing, and authority. Councils are convened. Assignments are reviewed. Seasons are weighed. And right now, your name is present in those discussions not because of failure but because of readiness. There comes a moment when heaven no longer debates if a person is prepared, but when they will respond. That moment has arrived for you. Archangel Michael reveals that God has already accounted for your weaknesses, your fears, and your past delays. None of those disqualify you. What heaven is waiting on now is alignment. Alignment is when your inner knowing and your outer action finally agree. Until that happens, blessings wait at the edge of manifestation. You may not realize this, but every delay has a spiritual echo. When you pause too long, it sends a signal that you are still negotiating with fear. Heaven respects free will deeply. God will not force you through a door, even when it leads to your breakthrough. Instead, He sends confirmation, repetition, and urgency. That is why this message feels strong. It is not pressure. It is persistence born out of love. Archangel Michael speaks of something specific. Protection is already assigned. but it activates fully after obedience. Many people assume protection comes before movement, but often it comes because of movement. When you step forward, angels are released to guard the path you choose. When you stay still out of fear, you remain in a space where unnecessary battles linger. This is why heaven urges you not delay. Delay keeps you exposed longer than obedience ever will. God sees how much you want certainty. But certainty is not the foundation of faith. Trust is. Faith is not knowing every outcome. It is knowing who goes with you. Archangel Michael reminds you that God has never asked you to be brave alone. He has always promised his presence first. What you are being asked to open immediately is not a trap. It is a door already covered by grace. There is also a deeper truth being revealed now. The decision being made in heaven is not only about blessing, it is about responsibility. God does not elevate without trust. He does not release influence without testing readiness. Your hesitation has already proven you take this calling seriously. Now heaven is saying, you have passed the waiting phase. It is time for the acting phase. Some listening to this have been feeling unusually emotional lately. Old fears resurfacing. Old memories trying to speak again. This is not regression. It is resistance. When you are close to movement, the past tries one final time to regain your attention. Archangel Michael declares that this is the last wave of internal resistance before breakthrough. If you move now, those voices lose authority. Understand this. Obedience in this season will compress time. What could take years will take months. What could take months will take weeks. God is a redeemer of time, but he redeems it through action. This is why heaven is focused on now. There are doors that only open when you arrive on time, not early and not late. You are not missing anything by moving forward. You are missing things by waiting. Peace is on the other side of your yes. Clarity is on the other side of your step. Strength is revealed while walking, not while standing still. Archangel Michael's presence confirms that this moment is guarded, approved, and supported. As this truth settles in, let your spirit respond. This is not a message to analyze endlessly. It is a message to receive and act upon. God is not demanding perfection. He is asking for willingness. Even imperfect obedience is more powerful than perfect intention that never moves. Now receive this activation with intention. Type "I step forward now" in the comments if this message is speaking directly to your spirit. Lesson code 444 has just been released over your obedience, your timing, and your next step. And hear this final word before we pause. This message did not reach you by accident. If you feel stirred, moved, or awakened, it is because God is also calling you to be part of spreading this light to others who are standing at the same threshold. As I speak to you now, I feel led to invite you into this mission. When you choose to support this work through super thanks, membership, or even a PayPal seed from the link in the description, you are not funding a channel. You are sowing into souls. The Lord is saying, as you release oil, I will keep your vessel full. Your support becomes a prophetic act, a response to heaven's movement in this hour. I declare that every seed sown in obedience will return as clarity, protection, and divine acceleration. Do not delay. Respond as the Spirit leads, and watch what God opens next. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now shifts the focus from heaven's decision to your inner world, because what happens within you in this moment will determine how smoothly the next season unfolds. Many think obedience is only external action, but heaven watches the posture of the heart just as closely. God is not only asking you to move forward, He is asking you to release the weight you have been carrying silently. The hesitation, the second guessing, the quiet fear of making the wrong move. These have been heavy, and they were never meant to travel with you into what comes next. There is a reason God keeps saying, do not delay. Delay often disguises itself as preparation, but Archangel Michael reveals that in your case, preparation has already happened. You have learned what you needed to learn. You have healed more than you realize. You have outgrown certain mindsets, even if they still try to cling to you. The discomfort you feel now is not a warning sign. It is a signal that your current position no longer fits who you are becoming. Many who hear this message have been feeling spiritually stretched. Old routines feel empty. Familiar environments feel restrictive. Conversations that once satisfied you now leave you restless. This is not dissatisfaction. It is divine displacement. God gently pushes His chosen ones out of comfort not to punish them, but to position them. Archangel Michael confirms that remaining where you are would slowly drain your fire. Movement is what will restore it. Heaven also wants you to understand that fear does not always shout. Sometimes fear whispers logical reasons to wait. It says, not yet, maybe later, or what if this goes wrong? Archangel Michael exposes this strategy clearly. The enemy rarely stops obedience with chaos. He prefers to slow it down with overthinking. That is why God's instruction is simple and firm. Simplicity cuts through confusion. There is something powerful waiting for you on the other side of this step, something you cannot access through prayer alone. Prayer prepared the ground, but action activates the harvest. God has already responded to your prayers. What you have been asking for is now waiting for your agreement in motion. Heaven has done its part. Now it is your turn. Archangel Michael also brings comfort here. You are not expected to have every detail figured out. God is not withholding information to test you. He is inviting you to trust Him in stages. Revelation often unfolds while walking, not before. Each step releases the next instruction. When you stop demanding the full picture, peace will replace anxiety. Pay attention to what has been repeating in your life. The same idea returning. The same invitation resurfacing. The same inner pull that refuses to leave. Repetition is one of God's loudest languages. Archangel Michael says heaven repeats instructions only when they are essential. This is not a suggestion. It is alignment calling you forward. You may wonder what happens if you finally say yes. Heaven answers clearly. Resistance weakens, favor increases, and momentum begins to build quickly. What felt impossible starts to feel manageable. What felt heavy starts to feel purposeful. Strength meets you mid-step. This is how God has always worked. He supplies strength while you are moving, not while you are standing still. There is also a warning wrapped in mercy. If you continue to delay, frustration will grow, not because God withdraws, but because your spirit knows it is living beneath its assignment. That internal tension is your soul urging you forward. Ignoring it does not make it disappear. It only makes it louder. Obedience quiets the noise. Archangel Michael reassures you that you are not walking into isolation. New connections will form. New support will emerge. God never calls without providing community, even if that community looks different from what you expected. Some people cannot follow you into the next season, and that is not a failure. It is a sign of transition. As this message continues, allow yourself to release the need to be understood by everyone. Obedience does not require consensus. It requires conviction. God understands you fully, and heaven approves your next move. That is enough. Take a deep breath and let this truth settle. You are not being rushed. You are being released. Released from waiting. Released from doubt. released from the version of you that needed constant reassurance. Archangel Michael stands as a witness that this is a moment of crossing over, not turning back. What comes next will reveal how God transforms obedience into acceleration, and how quickly things begin to shift once you step forward. Stay attentive, because the understanding coming will help you recognize the exact moment when movement becomes momentum. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now draws your awareness to the shift that occurs the moment obedience begins to move from intention into action. There is a spiritual law at work here that many never fully grasp until they experience it personally. The moment you decide, truly decide, something in the unseen realm responds immediately. Even before your outer world changes, your spiritual position changes. Heaven recognizes decision as movement, and movement as faith. This is why God has been pressing you so strongly about timing. Delay keeps you standing between two places, and standing between seasons is one of the most exhausting positions a soul can occupy. You feel pulled forward, yet anchored by old fears. You feel called upward, yet weighed down by familiar patterns. Archangel Michael reveals that much of the tiredness you have felt lately is not from doing too much, but from staying too long in a place you were meant to pass through. Once you choose to act, something subtle but powerful happens. The constant internal debate begins to quiet. The noise of what if starts to lose volume. Peace does not arrive because everything is resolved. It arrives because you are finally aligned. Alignment brings rest even before results appear. This is a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Heaven also wants you to understand that obedience unlocks discernment. Many wait for discernment before acting, but discernment sharpens while you walk with God, not while you remain frozen. Archangel Michael explains that light increases as you move toward it. Each step forward reveals the next few steps, not the entire journey. God has never required you to see the whole path, only to trust Him with the next stretch. There is something you have been underestimating about yourself. You have been focusing on what you lack instead of what God has already placed within you. The strength you are looking for is already present, waiting to be activated by use. Muscles grow by movement, not by rest alone. Faith is the same. It becomes stronger when exercised. Some of you have been afraid that if you move forward, you might lose something important. A sense of security, a relationship, a familiar identity. Archangel Michael speaks gently here. What is truly from God cannot be lost through obedience. Only what is temporary falls away when you move into alignment. And when something leaves during obedience, it is not loss, it is release. God is not calling you to abandon wisdom. He is calling you to abandon fear disguised as caution. There is a difference. Wisdom is peaceful and clear. Fear is restless and circular. Pay attention to which one hath been guiding your delay. Heaven is restoring your ability to recognize the difference. You may notice that once you begin to act, resistance shows up in new ways. Not always louder but subtler. Distractions increase. Doubts try to reframe themselves as concern. Archangel Michael warns you not to interpret resistance as a sign you are wrong. Often, resistance intensifies precisely because you are right. The enemy fights hardest at the threshold, not in the wilderness behind you. At the same time, encouragement will begin to appear unexpectedly. A conversation that confirms your direction. A word that resonates deeply. A door that opens with surprising ease. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations that heaven is walking with you. God is faithful to affirm obedience, even in small ways, to strengthen your resolve. There is also a healing that takes place through obedience. When you act in alignment, Parts of you that were wounded by past hesitation begin to recover. Regret loses its grip. Shame dissolves. You stop replaying old moments and start focusing on present purpose. Obedience pulls you out of the past and anchors you in the now. Archangel Michael wants you to know that heaven does not measure your progress the way humans do. God is not counting how fast you move compared to others. He is watching whether you are moving according to His voice. One obedient step carries more weight than years of forced striving. You are not behind. You are right on time the moment you respond. As you continue listening, let go of the idea that this next season must be perfect to be meaningful. Growth seasons are often messy, stretching, and unfamiliar, but they are also alive. Stagnation feels safer, but it slowly dims your spirit. God prefers a living, learning believer over a comfortable and moving one. Archangel Michael stands firm in this truth. Once you commit to moving forward, heaven commits to backing you. Resources align. Protection increases. Direction becomes clear. You are not stepping into uncertainty alone. You are stepping into partnership with God. Hold this understanding close as this message continues. What comes next will help you recognize the signs that confirm you are walking in divine timing, so you do not second-guess yourself once movement begins. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks about what happens when obedience is no longer just a decision, but a direction. There is a clear difference between deciding to move and actually walking forward day by day. This is where many begin strong but lose consistency. Heaven is addressing this because your next season is not sustained by emotion. It is sustained by commitment. God is not only calling you to start, He is calling you to stay aligned even when the initial excitement fades. Once you begin to move, you may notice that life does not instantly become quiet or easy. In fact, some situations may appear to intensify. This does not mean you made the wrong choice. Archangel Michael reveals that transition seasons often expose unresolved matters so they can be healed, not to block you, but to free you. God clears what could trip you later by bringing it into the light now. This is also the stage where discipline becomes important. Obedience opens the door, but discipline keeps you walking through it. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It guards your focus, your peace, and your consistency. Heaven is encouraging you to simplify where possible. Too many distractions dilute direction. Too many voices weaken conviction. God's voice remains steady, even when everything else feels noisy. Archangel Michael emphasizes that you are learning to walk by faith in a deeper way now. Earlier seasons may have required trust for provision or healing. This season requires trust for identity. God is shaping how you see yourself. You are no longer the person waiting for permission. You are becoming the person who moves when God speaks. That shift alone changes how spiritual battles respond to you. You may notice that some people do not understand your movement. They may question your timing or your motives. This is normal. Obedience often looks unreasonable to those who are not hearing what you are hearing. Heaven never promised universal understanding. It promised divine backing. You do not need approval from everyone when you already have confirmation from God. There's also a refining happening in how you respond to setbacks. In previous seasons, a delay or obstacle may have caused you to stop entirely. Now, Archangel Michael says you are being trained to adjust without quitting. A closed door is not always rejection. Sometimes it is redirection. Forward movement does not mean a straight line. It means refusing to turn back. God wants you to know that your faith is maturing. You are learning to trust Him beyond feelings. Some days you will feel strong. Other days you will feel uncertain. Consistency is what matters now. Obedience that continues even on quiet days is powerful in heaven. Angels respond to persistence. As this message is reaching you, take a moment to actively engage with what God is doing. If this word is strengthening you, like this video so the message can continue reaching those who are also navigating transition. Share it with someone who needs reassurance to keep moving forward. Leave a comment declaring that you are committed to walking in obedience. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so now and become part of this growing community that listens carefully to heaven's timing and responds with faith. Your engagement creates momentum not just for the channel, but for the message itself. Archangel Michael also highlights the importance of staying spiritually fed during this time. What you listen to, watch, and meditate on will either reinforce your direction or weaken it. Guard your inner atmosphere. Faith grows where truth is consistently planted. Starve fear by refusing to give it attention. There will be moments when you wonder if your movement is making a difference. In those moments, remember that spiritual progress often happens quietly before it becomes visible. Seeds grow underground long before they break the surface. Heaven celebrates progress you cannot yet see. Do not measure your journey only by external results. Be careful not to romanticize the past while walking into the future. The mind often tries to return to what is familiar when growth feels uncomfortable. Archangel Michael reminds you that comfort is not your calling. Growth is. You were never created to remain where you first learned how to survive. You were created to advance. Hold on, because what is coming next will help you recognize the subtle signs that confirm you are still on the right path, even when results seem delayed. Many give up right before these confirmations appear. Stay attentive. This next understanding will strengthen your endurance and sharpen your discernment as you continue forward. Beloved soul, Archangel Michael now invites you to recognize the quiet confirmations that appear once you are firmly in motion. These confirmations are not always dramatic. They do not always arrive as sudden miracles or loud breakthroughs. Often, they come as subtle shifts that only a discerning heart will notice. Heaven confirms alignment gently, because this season is teaching you to walk by spiritual awareness, not emotional excitement. One of the first signs you are on the right path is internal steadiness. Even when circumstances fluctuate, something inside you remains grounded. You may still face questions, but panic no longer controls you. This calm is not passive, it is rooted confidence. Archangel Michael says this peace is heaven's fingerprint. It appears when your will and God's will are moving together. You may also notice that certain struggles begin to lose their intensity. They do not vanish overnight, but they no longer dominate your thoughts the way they once did. Old temptations feel weaker. Old fears sound less convincing. This is not because you became stronger on your own, but because alignment weakens what was feeding on your hesitation. Darkness thrives in uncertainty. When you move, its influence diminishes. Another confirmation comes through timing. Situations begin to align in unexpected ways. A delay that once frustrated you now protects you. A closed door saves you from unnecessary trouble. Archangel Michael explains that when you are aligned, even obstacles work in your favor. God begins to rearrange outcomes to support your direction. What once felt random now feels purposeful. Pay attention also to how your prayers change. You may find yourself asking fewer desperate questions and making more bold declarations. Your prayers become less about survival and more about stewardship. This is a sign of growth. Heaven responds differently when a believer prays from authority instead of fear. Your voice carries more weight now because it is backed by obedience. There is also a refinement in your discernment. You become quicker to recognize what drains you and what strengthens you. Conversations that once confused you now feel clearly wrong for this season. Opportunities that once looked appealing now feel misaligned. Archangel Michael confirms that discernment sharpens when you stop standing still. Movement clears spiritual vision. Some of you may experience moments of silence from God and wonder if you miss something. Understand this clearly. Silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes God is quiet because you already heard Him and are now expected to walk it out. A parent does not repeat instructions every step of the way. Trust grows in the quiet. There may also be moments when progress feels slow. Do not confuse slow growth with stagnation. Seeds do not sprout the day after they are planted, but they are still alive. Heaven measures progress differently than humans do. Faithfulness is success in God's economy. Every day you remain aligned, even without visible change, is counted. Archangel Michael also wants you to be aware of subtle opposition that may arise through discouragement. Thoughts like, is this really working? Or maybe I imagined all of this may surface. These thoughts are not truth. They are tests of perseverance. The enemy cannot undo your obedience, but he will try to exhaust your patience. Do not engage those thoughts. Let them pass without agreement. Another confirmation you are aligned is the way you recover from setbacks. When something does not go as planned, you no longer collapse emotionally. You pause, adjust, and continue. This resilience is spiritual maturity. God trusts resilient believers with greater responsibility because they do not quit when conditions change. You may also notice an increase in compassion for others who are still hesitating. Instead of judgment, you feel understanding. You recognize your former self in them. This compassion is important. It means you are no longer trapped in comparison. You are free to walk your path without needing others to catch up. Archangel Michael reminds you that this season is not about rushing to the finish line. It is about learning how to walk consistently with God. Speed without alignment leads to burnout. Alignment produces endurance. God is training you for longevity, not just momentum. As you continue forward, resist the urge to constantly look back for reassurance. The past cannot confirm a future it has never seen. Your confirmation comes from heaven, not history. Trust what God is building in you now. The next understanding will reveal why some blessings require sustained obedience and how heaven rewards those who remain faithful even when recognition is delayed. This insight will protect you from premature discouragement and help you stay focused on the greater purpose unfolding ahead. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now reveals a deeper mystery about delayed visibility and hidden reward. Many people misunderstand how heaven works in seasons like this. They expect immediate evidence, instant applause, or clear confirmation from others. But God often hides His greatest works in plain obedience before He reveals them in public victory. What you are building right now is real, even if it is not yet visible. There is a sacred principle at work. Heaven rewards consistency before it rewards results. This is why some of the most powerful blessings arrive quietly. God watches who remains faithful when no one is clapping, when progress feels slow, and when obedience feels costly. Archangel Michael confirms that this phase is not punishment. It is trust building. God is entrusting you with unseen growth before visible expansion. You may feel overlooked at times, not rejected, but unnoticed. This feeling can be uncomfortable, especially when you are giving your best. But understand this clearly. Obscurity is often God's protection. When something is still developing, God shields it from unnecessary attention. Exposure too early can damage what is still forming. Heaven hides what it intends to preserve. This is also why comparison is dangerous in this season. Looking at others who seem to be advancing faster can tempt you to question your own pace. Archangel Michael warns that comparison distorts calling. God does not measure you against others. He measures you against obedience. Someone else's timeline has nothing to do with your assignment. When you stay focused on your path, peace remains intact. Another truth is being revealed now. Some blessings require sustained obedience because they are not just gifts. They are responsibilities. God does not release weighty blessings into unstable hands. He strengthens your foundation before increasing your influence. What feels like waiting is actually reinforcement. Heaven is making sure you can carry what is coming without breaking under it. You may notice that during this time, your character is being refined. Patience is deepening. Discernment is sharpening. Humility is growing. These are not side effects, they are prerequisites. Archangel Michael explains that God often answers prayers by first shaping the person who will steward the answer. You are becoming the kind of person who can handle what you asked for. There will be moments when you wonder if anyone sees your effort. Heaven sees it all. Nothing done in obedience is wasted. Every quiet act of faith, every unseen sacrifice, every moment you chose alignment over comfort is recorded. God is not unjust. He does not forget faithfulness. Reward may be delayed, but it is never denied. This season also teaches you to draw validation from God alone. When your confidence no longer depends on recognition, you become spiritually unshakable. Archangel Michael says this inner stability is rare and precious. It prepares you to stand firm when greater responsibility arrives. Those who are easily swayed by opinion cannot lead with authority. You are also learning how to trust God's timing without controlling outcomes. This surrender is powerful. It releases anxiety and invites peace. When you stop forcing results, God begins to accelerate them in ways you could never orchestrate. Heaven moves fastest when trust replaces striving. Now hear this clearly. The work you are doing now is setting the stage for sudden breakthrough later. Many blessings arrive suddenly, but they are prepared gradually. When the time comes, others will call it overnight success, but heaven will call it long obedience. Archangel Michael assures you that nothing is being delayed unnecessarily. Everything is unfolding with precision. Let this message anchor you. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. You are not behind. You are being refined. And what God is building in you now will sustain you later. Type "I trust the process" in the comments if your spirit receives this truth. Blessing code 888 is now activated over your patience, your consistency, and your unseen faithfulness. And as this moment settles in, I feel led to speak directly to those whose hearts are stirred by this message. If this word is strengthening you, understand that it is also reaching others through this space. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or a PayPal seed found in the description, you are helping this light reach souls who are quietly waiting for confirmation. The Lord is saying, as you sow into my work, I will establish your steps. Your giving is not ordinary, it is prophetic. I release blessing over every act of support, declaring increase, stability, and divine remembrance. Obey the nudge. Respond now. Heaven is watching your faith move. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now speaks about endurance, because endurance is what transforms alignment into legacy. Many can obey once. Fewer can obey consistently. Heaven is not only interested in moments of faith, but in patterns of faithfulness. What you are learning now is how to remain steady even when progress feels quiet. This steadiness is powerful in the spiritual realm. There is a misconception that when you are aligned, everything will flow effortlessly. In truth, alignment brings clarity, not exemption from challenge. Challenges still arise, but they no longer carry the same authority over you. You face them differently now. You respond instead of react. You discern instead of panic. Archangel Michael says this shift is evidence that your spirit is growing stronger. Endurance is built when you continue forward without constant reassurance. God sometimes allows silence not to test your worth, but to strengthen your trust. When you keep moving without new confirmation every step, you demonstrate maturity. Heaven trusts mature believers with greater influence because they do not require constant signs to stay obedient. You may encounter moments when enthusiasm fades and routine sets in. This is where many abandon what God started in them. But routine is not the enemy. Routine is the structure that sustains calling. Archangel Michael reveals that consistency outlasts passion. Passion ignites obedience, but consistency carries it forward. God is teaching you to value faithfulness over feelings. This season also exposes distractions that once seemed harmless. You become more aware of what steals your focus and drains your energy. Archangel Michael encourages you to be intentional with your time and attention. What you repeatedly give your attention to will shape your direction. Guard your focus as something sacred. You may notice that your prayers continue to evolve. They become quieter but deeper, less frantic, more assured. You begin to trust God's character even when you do not see immediate change. This trust pleases heaven. Faith that persists without visible reward is rare and precious. There is also a strengthening of spiritual authority happening now. Authority does not come from titles or recognition. It comes from obedience practiced over time. Each day you choose alignment, your authority increases, even if no one else sees it yet. The spiritual realm recognizes consistency long before the natural world does. Archangel Michael also reminds you that endurance requires rest. Rest is not quitting. It is refueling. God does not expect constant output without renewal. Learn to rest without guilt. Learn to pause without abandoning your direction. Balance protects you from burnout and keeps your spirit sensitive to God's voice. At times, you may be tempted to revisit old paths, wondering if they would be easier. Familiarity can feel comforting when growth feels demanding. But ease is not always evidence of blessing. Sometimes ease is simply familiarity. Archangel Michael cautions you not to confuse comfort with calling. What God is building in you now requires strength, not escape. Another sign of endurance developing is patience with people. You become less reactive, less defensive. You understand that everyone is on a journey, just like you. This patience is a fruit of spiritual maturity. It allows God to use you as a source of stability for others without draining your peace. There will also be moments when results appear slower than expected. In those moments, resist the urge to measure your progress by external milestones alone. Growth happens internally before it manifests externally. Heaven celebrates inner transformation just as much as outward success. Sometimes more. Archangel Michael wants you to understand that endurance attracts divine trust. God entrusts greater responsibility to those who do not abandon the process when it becomes quiet. Quiet seasons are not happy, they are formative. What is formed in quiet seasons sustains you in louder ones. You are learning how to walk without rushing and without retreating. This balance is rare. Many rush ahead of God. Others lag behind. Walking with God means matching His pace. Right now, His pace is steady, intentional, and purposeful. Trust it. As you continue forward, remember that every day you remain aligned is a victory, even if nothing dramatic happens. Faithfulness compounds. Small acts of obedience accumulate into significant spiritual weight over time. The next understanding will reveal how heaven begins to shift circumstances outwardly once endurance has done its work inwardly. This will help you recognize when preparation gives way to manifestation, and how to remain humble and grounded when change finally becomes visible. Stay attentive. You are closer than you think. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks about the moment when preparation begins to translate into visible change. This is a delicate phase because many misinterpret early signs of movement. When circumstances start shifting, it does not always feel like breakthrough at first. Sometimes it feels like instability. Old structures loosen. Familiar patterns change. What once felt solid begins to move. This is not collapse. It is transition. Heaven does not rearrange things randomly. When God prepares to elevate, He often disrupts what can no longer support the next level. Archangel Michael reveals that some of the changes you notice now are answers to prayers you prayed long ago. They may not look like answers because they are unfolding differently than you imagined. But heaven is precise. Nothing is accidental. You may find that opportunities arise that require quick discernment. Decisions feel more consequential. This is because your choices now carry greater weight. God trusts you more. Increased trust always brings increased responsibility. This is why staying spiritually attentive is critical. Do not rush decisions, but do not delay out of fear either. Balance is your safeguard. There is also a humbling aspect to this stage. As things begin to move outwardly, pride may try to attach itself subtly. Archangel Michael cautions you to remain grounded. Remember where God brought you from. Remember the quiet obedience, the unseen faithfulness, the long waiting. Gratitude keeps you aligned when favor increases. You may notice that people begin to respond to you differently. Some show more respect. Others may feel threatened or distant. This is normal. Growth changes relational dynamics. Do not chase validation, and do not internalize resistance. Stay focused on obedience. God will handle perception. Another important truth is revealed here. Visible movement does not mean the process is finished. It means a new phase has begun. Continue practicing the disciplines that sustain you in preparation. Prayer, discernment, humility, and consistency remain essential. Breakthrough without structure leads to burnout. God desires sustainability, not just success. As this message continues, take a moment to actively support what God is doing through this space. If this word is strengthening you, like this video so the message can reach others who are on the edge of their own transition. Share it with someone who needs confirmation that change does not mean failure. Leave a comment declaring that you are staying aligned through every shift. And if you have not subscribed yet, do so now and join this growing community that listens for heaven's timing and walks it out together. Archangel Michael also reminds you that discernment is especially important when doors begin to open. Not every open door is your assignment. Favor attracts options, but wisdom selects direction. Ask God not just for opportunity, but for clarity. He is faithful to guide you when you seek Him sincerely. You may feel moments of excitement mixed with moments of fear. This mixture is natural. New territory always stretches the soul. Do not interpret fear as a sign to retreat. Instead, treat it as a signal to lean deeper into trust. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience despite it. There may also be delays that occur even after things start moving. Do not become discouraged. Some delays are refinements, not denials. God may slow certain aspects to protect others. Heaven sees the full picture. Trust the pacing. Hold on, because what comes next will reveal how God establishes what He starts, and how to remain spiritually protected when blessings begin to manifest. Many stumble not before breakthrough, but after it begins. This next understanding will help you walk in wisdom, humility, and stability as heaven continues to move in your life. Stay attentive. This is where it all starts to come together. Beloved soul, Archangel Michael now speaks about spiritual protection in seasons of manifestation, because when blessings begin to take shape, attention increases in both the natural and unseen realms. This is not meant to alarm you, but to prepare you. God never releases increase without also providing covering. Your awareness is part of that covering. When things start aligning outwardly, it becomes even more important to guard your inner life. Success, progress, and answered prayers can subtly shift focus if you are not careful. Archangel Michael reminds you that what sustained you in preparation must continue to sustain you in manifestation. Prayer is not something you graduate from. It is something you deepen. Dependence on God does not decrease as blessings increase. It becomes more essential. One of the first areas that requires protection is your thought life. Old doubts may attempt to resurface in new forms. Instead of questioning whether God will come through, the mind may begin questioning whether you deserve it. This is a lie. Worthiness was settled at the cross. You are not walking in blessing because you earned it perfectly, but because you responded obediently. Shut down thoughts that try to rewrite God's grace as guilt. Another area of protection involves boundaries. As things begin to move, more demands may be placed on your time, energy, and attention. Not every request is an assignment. Not every invitation is an opportunity. Archangel Michael encourages you to remember that no is sometimes the most spiritual word you can speak. Boundaries protect calling. Without them, even good things can drain you. You may also notice increased spiritual sensitivity. You become more aware of atmospheres, conversations, and motives. This sensitivity is a gift, but it must be stewarded wisely. Do not allow discernment to turn into suspicion. Discernment seeks clarity, suspicion seeks control. Stay rooted in peace. God guides through peace, not paranoia. Humility remains a key safeguard. Humility does not mean diminishing what God is doing in you. It means recognizing the source of it. When you stay aware that every good thing flows from God, pride loses its foothold. Archangel Michael says humility attracts continued grace. God resists pride not because He is harsh, but because pride disconnects the heart from dependence. There may be moments when you are tempted to rush ahead, fueled by momentum. Be cautious here. Momentum is powerful, but it must be directed. Moving faster than God can lead to unnecessary strain. Ask often, Lord, is this your pace? God is not impressed by speed. He is honored by alignment. Another protective measure is gratitude. Gratitude anchors you in the present and keeps your heart soft. When you regularly acknowledge what God has done, you remain aware of His faithfulness. Gratitude also protects against entitlement. You receive blessings with open hands instead of clenched fists. Archangel Michael also speaks about spiritual rest. As responsibilities increase, rest becomes even more important. Rest is not weakness. It is wisdom. God designed rest as a rhythm, not a reward. When you rest, you declare trust. You acknowledge that God is at work even when you pause. Be mindful of voices you allow close during this season. Seek counsel from those who are spiritually grounded, not just emotionally supportive. Encouragement is valuable, but wisdom is essential. God often speaks through mature voices who are not intimidated by your growth. You may encounter spiritual warfare in subtle forms, such as distraction, discouragement, or division. These are attempts to weaken focus. Do not engage unnecessarily. Stay anchored in truth. Remember what God spoke at the beginning. Revisit the promises that carried you through preparation. They are still relevant now. Archangel Michael assures you that you are not walking into exposure without defense. Angels are assigned. Favor surrounds you. Wisdom is available. But protection works best when partnered with obedience. Continue to listen. Continue to adjust. Continue to trust. As this message nears its completion, understand that you are standing in a sacred moment. What began as a nudge has become a journey. What required faith now requires stewardship. God is not only bringing you into blessing, He is shaping you into someone who can sustain it. The final revelation will tie everything together and seal this message with clarity, authority, and blessing. It will show you how heaven completes what it starts and how your obedience echoes beyond your own life. Stay open. This is the moment of sealing. My beloved one, Archangel Michael now brings this message to its sealing moment, where understanding becomes activation and hearing becomes embodiment. Everything you have received was not meant to inform you alone. It was meant to transform you. Heaven never speaks casually. When God said, "Do not delay," it was not only about one decision, one step, or one season. It was about a posture you are being invited to carry forward for the rest of your journey. You are stepping into a life where obedience becomes your reflex, not your struggle. Where hesitation no longer rules your choices. Where you recognize God's voice with clarity and respond with confidence. Archangel Michael declares that the authority you have gained through this process cannot be taken from you. It was forged through waiting, strengthened through endurance, and confirmed through movement. What began as urgency has now become assurance. You are no longer standing at the door wondering if you should open it. You are already walking through it. The fear that once felt loud now feels distant. The confusion that once clouded your thoughts has lifted. This is the fruit of alignment. When your spirit agrees with heaven, peace follows naturally. Understand this clearly. Heaven's decision about your life was never against you. It was always for you. God's instruction to open immediately was not a demand. It was an invitation into protection, acceleration, and purpose. And because you responded, even if imperfectly, heaven responded fully. Angels move when obedience speaks. Archangel Michael confirms that what comes next in your life will unfold with greater clarity than before. You will recognize divine timing faster. You will sense misalignment sooner. You will no longer need prolonged struggle to discern direction. This is maturity. This is growth. This is the result of walking through the process instead of avoiding it. You may still face challenges, but they will not carry the same weight. You have learned how to move with God instead of waiting on certainty. You have learned that trust is stronger than fear, and obedience is stronger than delay. These lessons will serve you well in every season ahead. Now receive this final sealing word. The season of hesitation is closed. The season of obedience is active. The season of manifestation is unfolding. What God begins, He completes. What heaven authorizes, no force can reverse. Stand firm in this truth. Type "I receive" and "I move" in the comments if you are sealing this word over your life right now. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over your future, your obedience, and your divine alignment. And before this message fully closes, hear this final instruction spoken with clarity and authority. If this word reached you, it is because God trusted you to carry it further. This message is not meant to stop with you. Souls are waiting, quietly, desperately, for confirmation that heaven sees them too. And I am speaking directly to you now. If your heart has been stirred, if your spirit has been strengthened, then respond with action. When you give through super thanks, when you join membership, or when you sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a video. You are sowing into God's work, reaching the hidden, the delayed, the hesitant. The Lord is saying, as you release into my house, I will release clarity, protection, and increase into yours. This is a prophetic response moment. Do not delay. Obey the nudge. Act now. And I declare over every giver that heaven will remember your seed and multiply it in ways only God can.